This is the life, man. Better than a cruise.
Ain't that ugly over there? We got the prettiest place on earth.
One of the principal functions and virtues of storytelling is the presentation of things from a perspective that is unfamiliar to the audience.
Daddy says, up above the levee, on the dry side, they're afraid of the water like a bunch of babies.
We can see things through the eyes of someone unlike ourselves and be transported to what can feel like another world. This can help us to understand and empathize with people to whom we may have had no prior connection. The two movies I want to look at today show us people living in ways alien to most viewers. But such people exist, on the fringes of what you might consider normal society. Their worlds are bounded by obstacles created by differences of economy, geography, and society. 2017's The Florida Project, from director Sean Baker, and Ben Zeitlin's Beasts of the Southern Wild, released in 2012, both serve to introduce us to such worlds. Each offers a non-judgmental look at an otherwise invisible community and invites us to care. The Florida Project is a slice-of-life story concerning Mooney, a little girl left largely without guidance by her mother through a combination of a free-spirited mindset and casual neglect.
When your friend puts you in charge of her kid, that kid becomes your responsibility. You ain't taking responsibility. And you got that one too. She's from Futureland, right?
Oh, whatevs. You gotta relax, my man.
They live in a cheap motel just outside Disney World, where tenants have to vacate monthly in order to avoid establishing residence, so that the motel owners can retain the right to expel them without an arduous legal process should it become necessary.
Does this have to be here?
Oh, what are you doing?
Just come through this door for Christ's sake, Bobby. Can you go talk to her? Tell her to go to the bath.
It's a constant reminder that they are truly welcome nowhere. And by the nature of the residents, the community that exists there is one of misfits, mostly unemployed or barely hanging on. The children roam free, unschooled and unrestrained. As the film opens, Mooney and her friends are bored, looking for something to occupy them, and is happy to find a car to spit on, as they are to then clean it up as punishment.
Stop!
Hey guys, you're having too much fun, and it's not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be work, okay? So get on it.
We got it.
Get on it.
Don't worry.
They live unstructured lives, and they find their fun where they can. There's definitely an appeal to this strange lifestyle. The colors are vibrant, the kids energetic in the periphery of Disney World, where the weather is beautiful. It all has the feel of liberation. One might even envy the freedom that these characters indulge. The carefree attitudes of the characters, the way they lightly shrug off responsibility.
These are the rooms we're not supposed to go in. But let's go anyway.
And they get by, one way or another.
Excuse me? Do you want to buy some perfume? Do you want to buy some perfume? We're selling perfume.
Yeah, you can have the whole box. Take the whole box with you. Go ahead.
There's a strong sense of community as well, despite any conflicts. Everyone seems benevolent, and they care for one another after all. But there's another pervasive element, the corruption of neglect, as exemplified when the kids explore an abandoned housing project.
Line it up, Scooty. Yep, line it up.
Carefree becomes careless, and the easy slip from responsibility comes into relief as the irresponsibility it really is.
We're gonna be in so much trouble. No, just Jesse, go home. Bye. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell your grandma. Okay, bye. Okay.
It's not that these kids are innocently liberated from behavioral norms. It's that they are incapable of dealing with real consequences because they've never had any guidance. They are as neglected as those empty homes, and as prone to damage. Although the children are our point of entry into their world, the story is very much about Hallie, Mooney's mother. She's an adult that shares Mooney's spirit of devil-may-care to the point of unseemliness.
Oh my God, this is unacceptable. I failed as a mother, Mooney. You've disgraced me.
Hallie?
Yeah, Mom, you're a disgrace.
She's a lost person, as we may suspect many of her community are. Scraping by as best she can, but not equipped to provide for herself, let alone a child.
Actually, sir, can you just give us a couple bucks just for me and my kid?
Hallie loves her daughter and embodies in raw form the notion that this, and the indulgence of her child's whims, is enough. Enough to consider herself an adequate parent. Enough to provide Mooney with a proper upbringing. But we can see plainly enough that Mooney is destined to be a facsimile of Hallie, and if anything, even less capable of self-sustenance.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Can I have your room number, please?
323.
Thank you. Have a great stay.
In both films, the encroachment of the uncomprehending outside world takes the form of helicopters in transit. Authorities who invasively insist upon helping.
Please open the door. This is a mandatory evacuation area. Everyone in this region has to leave.
We ain't going nowhere!
When they come for Mooney, our sympathies are tested. Much as we might intellectually understand that her situation is in dire need of improvement, we've already empathized with her and Hallie. We've been sharing their perspective, and as such, feel the injustice of a situation where there's nobody to help, and normal society has become a threat to their happiness.
Mom, what's going on?
It's okay, baby.
What's okay?
Mooney flees with her friend Jancy the encroachment of regulated life, headed to Disney World, as though if they could just arrive there, they'd finally be truly free. The Florida Project evokes our own sense of limitation, the claustrophobic nature of living responsibly in accordance with rules we never made or agreed to. Suddenly we understand that our own desire as tourists to escape to Disney World is a kind of subdued version of the desperation of this lost child. What's in store for Mooney? Very likely nothing good. The story simply invites us to focus our attention where we've been neglecting to do so. It does not tell us what to think, or whether to see Mooney's escape as a liberation or a tragedy.
I can always tell when adults are about to cry. I'm recording my story for the scientists in the future. In a million years, when kids go to school, they're gonna know once there was a hush puppy and she lived with her daddy in the bathtub.
As tragic as the situation for Mooney may be, the world we delve into watching Beasts of the Southern Wild is all the more squalid.
Feed up time! Feed up!
Hush Puppy lives in a community that practices a sort of wildly primitive tribalism, existing on the outskirts of the marginalized United States in a place they call the Bathtub. They eke out a life by the skin of their teeth, relying on folk wisdom and the loyalty of a small but close-knit community. While exemplifying the neglect of the nation-state, they also personify the values most associated with American thinking. Freedom, even at the cost of ignorance and poverty. Sovereignty, even if it means fighting alone against the encroachment of forces immense in scale. The will to assert oneself, to face off against the ills of the world and declare one's right to exist, not as a plea, but as the demand of an indomitable will.
Come on! I'm gonna get you! Come on, I'm right here! I'm right here! Yeah!
Beasts of the Southern Wild appeals to something primal that I think we all feel, a desire to express a fierce independence, to live free by means of one's wit and whatever personal might one can muster in outraged resistance against the bland safety of civilization. In her life, people are not so concerned with living as how they live, and Hush Puppy sees what we call civilization through her father's eyes, as a hypocritical, sickly institution devoid of passion or the animal will to survive on one's own terms. When the people refusing to leave the bathtub during the floods are captured and taken to the Open Arms Processing Center, Hush Puppy perceives only that their captors want to rob her father of his dignity, his identity. They're making him die quietly, instead of combating death to the last.
When an animal gets sick here, they plug it into the wall.
The world around her is collapsing with an immediacy unfamiliar to the country at large. We can hear about the rising waters and inevitable submersion of the bathtub with dispassion, but for Hush Puppy, it's an impending reality. Their continued survival is that tenuous. Where most fathers worry about leaving an inheritance or sending their kids through college, it's Wink's ambition simply to prevent his daughter's demise. Where the Florida Project shows us both the appeal and the dangers of how these particular people live, and leaves us to contemplate the fate of Mooney as she seeks the same escape we all sometimes do, Beasts of the Southern Wild takes us well beyond that point. And unlike Mooney, Hush Puppy's notion of escape is to be unlike the rest of us, not to succumb to the fantasy ever after of Disney World, but to imagine that the bathtub is paradise and city dwelling is hell.
Daddy always saying that up in the dry world, they got none of what we got. They got fish stuck in plastic wrappers. They got their babies stuck in carriages. And chicken on sticks and all that kind of stuff.
In both films, viewed from the perspectives of little girls, the story's true focus is the parent that defines the child. When we fear for Mooney and Hush Puppy, when we admire their spirits, it's their parents' legacies we're fearing and admiring.
Let me go! Get your hands off me! I don't need nothing from y'all! Let me go! Leave her alone!
Mooney is the daughter of an aimless, unemployed woman ill-equipped to provide. She will literally beg, borrow, or steal to get by, and will not balk at selling her body to make ends meet.
Moni, get ready for a bath, okay? What kind of car are you driving? All right, room 323 then.
Ironically, it is for this very quality she is ultimately punished, and when they come to take her daughter from her, all Hallie perceives is the judgment of people blinded by prejudice.
Being very emotional right now.
You want me to help you take my child away?
It is their very lack of understanding, their failure to share her perspective, that we, the audience, have sufficiently overcome to feel her pain, her sense of injustice. And this feeling is shared by Mooney.
Mooney! Oh my God. Officer!
You let her just run away?
Haley, will you please just stay?
And I'm the one who's unfit?
It drives her to flee, to pursue who knows what, rather than face assured conformity and obedience. She runs off in hopes of becoming her mother. Hush Puppy is the daughter of a goddess. She is the daughter of a singularly willful and independent man. She commands the respect of the beasts as a queen, because on a primal level, she is the epitome of spirited independence. Her father is perhaps comparable to Allie Fox from the Mosquito Coast, choosing as he does to live off the land, utilizing nothing but his own ingenuity and gumption. He clings to the lie that he can handle his situation, and that all will be well in time if they can just stay in the bathtub. He eschews society and defies authority in any form. It's an attitude that may seem like folly, but is admirable as well. Here's a principled man, willing to die rather than submit to the manipulation of others. But it's become like a mania, where he cannot distinguish between interference and assistance, between the deceptions of tyrants and simple facts. And so he makes conflict with the government, so that he can feel that he is fighting the good fight, so that he can claim to be taking action rather than passively allowing himself and his daughter to perish in the blight that follows the storm. What's important to him is that he's not a victim, and this is what Hush Puppy takes to heart and makes her driving motive. A refusal to be a victim.
Now! Now, boss! Now, boss! No!
There is no misfortune in her world, just enemies to elude or overcome, and the ongoing, endless struggle to live in the natural world.
Ow! Don't worry about that. That's all a part of it. Come on, you want to try it again?
To keep her heart beating and squishing, knowing that her life may end in this struggle, and not being afraid. Between these two films, and through these characters, we experience things that drive us to question our complacency, to think about the plight of marginalized people, to introspect about our own roles in our communities.
The brave men stay and watch it happen. They don't run.
Maybe you'll see these films and not be altered in the path you follow, but you will not watch these films and remain unmoved.
I'm going to eat a strawberry and a raspberry at the same time. Man, oh man, that's gross.